Hey guys, Joe here at the Joe Madden Sports Podcast. I'm joined this afternoon by Scott Spreitzer from Doc Sports, professional handicapper. Scott, welcome back to the show. How's the day treating you?
Doing all right, Joe. I mean, as an Angels fan, I'm praying for rain so they don't play a second game. I mean, my gosh, they need a break. I'm not involved in the game, but, I got a little excited for a little over a month there with the Halos, and now it's looking right back to the same old, same old.
Absolutely. They are having their struggles for sure, and hopefully you get that rain and a break for them. Let's talk tonight's basketball game. Everyone wants to hear about this game one of the NBA. We've got the Boston Celtics taking on the Golden State Warriors. Now we've got a total that has risen to 213.5. Golden State still 3.5-point favorite. What are you liking for this first game tonight?
Yeah, I got to tell you, as far as the total is concerned, it might as well be Greek to me, as they say, right? Because I have no play at all, no opinion on the total, Joe. I really don't. I don't normally get involved with totals until we've seen a game in a series played between two teams. So that's part of the reason. But, I'll start you off by telling you a couple of things. Maybe you already know. Maybe some viewers and listeners to the show haven't heard this yet. But if you go back the last 81 playoff games in the NBA, the straight up winner has covered 72 of those 81 games, 72-9 against the spread. And that means that if we were, fortunate to have that crystal ball and been playing the straight up winner to cover every time, Joe, we'd be in Tahiti or something, sipping Mai Tais on the beach, letting everybody else worry about their money. But listen, there's that. There's the fact that when the Western Conference team has been the better team as far as record is concerned, starting the finals at home, they've won like 13 in a row now against the East. Going back, it's been about 17 years in that scenario. And they've not only won those games, but they've done so by an average of about 13 or 14 points per contest. That's how crazy it's been. A good friend of mine, a guy by the name of Big Al McMorty, who you may know, and I know you've done some work with him in the past.
I do love Big Al.
A couple of years ago with his database. And I've just been putting the little wins and losses in there ever since he gave that to me. So I wanted to give him credit for that Western Conference over Eastern Conference situation. So a couple of really big spots, Joe, in game one, pointing to Golden State. We've seen them start off real well in all three series thus far. Their home openers, I should say, they won 112-87, 142-112, 123-107. And that 142-112 win over Memphis was game three, but it was their home opener as far as that playoff series was concerned. So this is a team that is ready to go right from the get-go, from the opening tip in game one, or at least their first home game in the playoffs so far this season, while Boston is a very fortunate game one win at home over Brooklyn from being 0-3 straight up in their playoff openers so far this season. So it's not going to be easy, I think, for Boston in game one. I think the lack of experience factors into game one more than any other game in this particular series. If you look at individual experience by Golden State players, it's over 120 games in the finals when you combine all the guys on the roster. Boston, 0, a big fat 0.
That is a crazy difference.
What's that?
That's a crazy difference, Scott, when you look at it that way.
And I really think that, if it's going to rear its ugly head, I guess you could call it, if you're a Boston backer or fan, it would be in game one. They've also got to adjust to defense. Golden State, number one in defensive efficiency this year in the NBA. Two of the three teams Boston has faced were in the middle of the pack, 14th and 15th, the Bucks and the Nets, respectively. So game one, it's not a big play for me. Joe, I made a small play on this, but I do like Golden State minus the points. I've seen a couple of fours pop up in the last hour. Those are outside. I'm in Nevada. Those are outside the state of Nevada. Here in Nevada, it's all 3.5.
Okay. Now, how confident are you in Golden State? Would you extend that line at all?
I would go no more than 4. I don't mind 4, but yeah, and again, it's a small play for me at 3.5. So of course, if you go 4 and it lands there, you get your money back. So that's as high as I would go. However, if you go back to that angle or that trend that I mentioned of the last 15 to 17 years, they should have no problem at all if they continue that trend. I'm not a big trend guy, but when it gets into the playoffs, I tend to look at angles and situations and trends more than any other time during the course of the season.
And now that trend said they would win by 13 or more points in this then, Scott. So I'm going to sprinkle on that. You know, I would love that plus money. I'm going to see what my book will give me to extend it to that. I would kick myself if I sit here tonight and see that game go that way and I didn't listen to that trend that you threw out there. So thank you for that advice. Definitely tailing that. Let's look at NHL. We have a fantastic game tonight between the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. And Scott, the last game was absolutely phenomenal. If you like goals, what are you expecting for this one tonight?
Yeah, played the over in game one, so I was real happy with what was going on. You never felt like you weren't going to get there 7-8 minutes into the game. I actually took a little bit and put it on the Oilers, and I did that yesterday. So the price was about 10 cents higher than it is today. It was about $1.60. Now they're plus $1.50 or thereabouts. And, a lot of that had to do not only with the fact that the Oilers were able to build a lot of confidence, not unlike that game one against Calgary, that 9-6 loss that they suffered. They realized we can get up and down the ice, with Calgary. We can kind of make them tail us a little bit. And they found out they could beat Markstrom in that series. They realized it right from game one. And I think there's going to be a ton of confidence from this Edmonton attack after the goals, the amount of goals they put up on Colorado. Now, it wasn't all against Kemper. It looks like he's not going to play tonight. You had Francouz, who's going to be in net tonight. He's been decent in 21 appearances this year, 255 goals against average, Joe, 916 save percentage, which is pretty close to what Kemper has done all season, but in fewer appearances. They scored three goals on 21 shots against Francouz. They scored 3 on 16 shots against Kemper the other night. So this team, I think, is just brimming over the top with confidence. And we might have talked about them a little bit last week on your show. When I see what this team has, Draisaitl, obviously, McDavid, obviously, but they're so darn deep. And I think I might have mentioned, and I still say it, Evander Kane is a total knucklehead off the ice. But on the ice, in the right spot with the right teammates, he is a guy who can take your team to another level, another notch. And I took the Oilers plus $1.50. And this is what's funny about it. I would rather they were going up against Darcy Kemper. Not that he's not better than Francouz, but the bottom line is when I handicap a game, I want to go against the players that everybody's familiar with or play on those teams. And even though I do like the over a bit here, I'm not crazy about it. I would have jumped all over it. I've got a small play on it. I would have been all over it if Kemper was playing. What scares me a little bit here about the total is you might get a Colorado team that everybody picks up the slack, especially the blue liners, because they don't have Kemper to rely on. And so all of a sudden it kind of changes the flow of the game a little bit. That's the fear about the total in this one for me. I still think it gets there, but I'm not as crazy about the over as if we had everybody on ice who's supposed to be there.
Okay, yeah, I can't wait for this game to kick off tonight. It's going to be phenomenal. You guys, make sure you tune into this game. But let's look at some MLB. I know you've got everything on the go today. We've got a great game here between the Braves and the Rockies tonight. Now, this one, what are you thinking? Are you looking at a higher scoring game here? Or are you going to go for a side?
There ought to be a higher scoring game. If the things that I like about the side being the Braves in this one, and they're about $1.40-ish, give or take a few cents in Denver tonight. But if everything that I think is a good reason to play Atlanta tonight, then it probably gets to the over, other than Ian Anderson, who's been tremendous on the road for the Atlanta Braves so far this season. The thing that what made me like Atlanta and jump on them and lay a little bit bigger price than I normally do, Joe, is first of all, they played a complete game yesterday in Arizona. They staved off the road sweep at the hands of the D-backs, and they really did. They played a complete game, whether it be in the field, at the plate, what have you. Great pitching in that game. And I think that means they're going to probably flip that switch for at least another game here to be able to get the victory. And Colorado, which, they were phenomenal last season at home. First 4 weeks of this season, I played them quite a bit at home. They were winning games, just like they were last year. But the last 11 games, they're just 5-6 at home. So we've seen a little bit of a drop off here for them. And then Austin Gomber, oh my gosh, he's got to get it together. 4 straight starts that he's been on the mound, they've lost when he's been out there. His ERA is over 8. His WHIP is around $1.60. His strikeout to walk ratio in the last 4 games is like 9-8. I mean, it's barely better than you or I would be doing right now, right? And then, and he's lasting less than 5 innings pitched per start. So I just think it's a good spot for Atlanta. I normally don't go $1.40, $1.45, but I did in this particular game.
Okay, probably worth taking them there in this situation. What about the Seattle Mariners versus the Baltimore Orioles tonight. We have Chris Flexen starting for the Seattle Mariners. Jordan Lyles coming up for the Orioles. We got a total of 9 here. Orioles, you're paying just slightly more juice at -105, -103 I'm seeing for the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, Orioles have been this line has been bouncing around a little bit between, Orioles $1.10, Seattle $1.10 since last night. Listen, big starting pitching advantage if everything goes on the field, if it translates on the field to what the advantages are on paper. So Jordan Lyles has been obviously tremendous. And I was looking at Chris Flex as I jotted down a couple of the notes here, how badly he's been struggling on the road, and I think it's going to continue in this game. We saw Baltimore bust out, I believe it was for 9 runs last night. This, of course, the rubber match of this series. But when you look at Seattle, when you're handicapping them this year at the plate, they're not good on the road against righties in any of the metrics that I really like, which includes the most important runs scored per game, but also things like, weighted runs created plus, WOBA, batting average, stuff like that on the road against righties. They're just not getting the job done. And what they have to do to win games is hit home runs. Now you're going to go up against Jordan Lyles, who has not allowed a single home run all season so far at home for the Orioles. At 25 2/3 innings pitched, and he's yet to give up the long ball. And so I think that kind of squashes what Seattle needs to do if he's able to continue to pitch at the level he has thus far on the Camden Mound. So I jumped on Baltimore here. I think the price is fair if you like the O's. Again, it's around even money. Maybe you got to lay $1.10 in some spots, but that's the way I'd go here is on Baltimore.
Definitely should be a great game and matchup here, Scott. Thank you for breaking this one down as well. Anything else that you are any props you are looking at today?
I'm not a big props guy, Joe. I do play a few here and there, but I guess it's just the old school in me. It's funny because we had Super Bowl props that started about 1985, and I think it was William the Refrigerator Perry score a touchdown on offense for the Chicago Bears. That's the kind of stuff we had back in the day. So I'm still a little bit old school. I will jump in here and there and look to play like certain guys to homer in certain games, or, points, rebounds, assists combined in the NBA, but I don't have anything going tonight. And I got to tell you, just to be, candid, that over the course of a week of wagering and handicapping, I probably have 5 to 6 prop bets per week, when it comes to the baseball season. And now that we're down to 1 game a night when they play in the NBA finals, NBA regular season board might have maybe double that, 10 to 12 props per week. But one thing I don't like to do, because I do have a lot of clients, as you know, and over at DocSports.com, I don't like, unless it's for free, to try to make people have to pay for props from me, because in a lot of instances, they can't get the same or even close to the same number in the books. Once it's regulated, then it'll be more fun, I think, to jump in, and clients can jump on board and know that they're going to get basically the same price or the same plays. But yeah, for me right now during the summer, 5 to 6 props per week, Joe. I know you like it even more than I do. And it's like, man, I got to talk to you more often when it comes to baseball props, because again, I'm not one who searches and looks for a lot of them.
Yeah, there's definitely some great ones out there, but I love your point about they just have to be regulated across the board for sure. But Scott, it was a pleasure having you on here today. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening right now at Doc Sports?
Yeah, go over to DocSports.com. You can check out all the daily packages, also the weekly and monthly packages, season long, all that kind of good stuff at DocSports.com. I've now been there for over 4.5 years, and I don't regret for a single minute being there. And if they want to, get in touch with me through Doc Sports, they can do so just texting Scott 29022. It's Scott with 2 T's, 29022, or just go over to the website, check out my handicappers homepage. There's a great thing we do over at Docs that they created a long time ago. I had nothing to do with it. They're the minds, the powers that be. And if folks have never been a member at DocSports.com, they get a free $60, Joe, and they can go over to the website, Doc Sports, and click on that $60 free account. And then what they basically do is they get 60 free bucks, which they can use on any handicapper on the roster over at DocSports.com. They could choose me or anybody else to their liking. So pretty cool deal. And listen, man, I really appreciate you having me on again. Love your podcast. You do a fantastic job, and I truly mean it. Not just doing it because we're sitting next to each other in this particular video. You do a great job.
Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate it and appreciate everything that you guys are doing over at Doc Sports for the transparency in this industry. So you guys head on over to docsports.com and text that number. Get that $60 free and grab Scott's plays. How many plays do you have out today, Scott?
I've got 6 plays in all, and you just, in fact, wait till tomorrow if you want to jump on board with me, but you can text that number and get set up for tomorrow, because I am on the teams that I just gave you. These aren't just plays that, are opinions. I'm actually playing these myself. So you just got I think 4 of my plays that I got going tonight. And the folks, of course, can jump on. I do have a WNBA game going tonight if they want to jump on that, so they can text for that tonight. So, but anyway, just being candid and want to let everybody know that the plays that we just talked about are all personal plays for me and for my clients.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Scott, so much. All the best in all of your bets tonight. Hopefully we'll see you back next week.
Sounds great, Joe, man. Thanks a lot and have a great one.
You too. Thank you so much. You guys, I will be back later today with another Joe Madden Sports podcast.